A short reading from the book Worlds Beyond the Poles, and comparing these findings to observations from my diviner's eye of the mechanical construct in the peak of the firmament. The author of the book being Francis Amedeo Gianni, some sources cite him as Amedeo Francis Gianni. He was probably born in late 1800s or early 1900s. There seemed to be nothing that suggests a connection to Francis Amedeo Gianni, who joined the 14 Society in 1944. Information suggests that he joined the society and wrote under an assumed name, documented on 2 cards from the Associated Press. Name card index, January 1932. Card reads, Giannini Francis Amedeo is arrested on charge of unlawful entry by a house detective at the Plaza Hotel. Is said to be a lecturer and an astronomer. He was held on $1,500 bail for trial in special session on charge of unlawful entry. The second card reads from 6th of May 1932. Gianni, who had told a probation officer that he had lectured before at the National Academy of Science in Washington and several other large Eastern colleges, is sentenced to Sing Sing for unlawful entry. This person arrested in 1932 is almost certainly the same one who joined the 14 Society and later wrote a book on cosmography. In the spring 1944 issue of the 14 Society magazine, Thayer announced a new member who, like other 14s, had invented a new conception of the universe. The Society had belatedly come upon the Gianni universe through the courtesy of its creator, Francis Amedeo Gianni, who recently joined us. Details to be first presented in 1927 in a paper headed Physical Continuity of the Universe and Worlds Beyond the Poles. End of the reading for the second card. Apparently, Gianni also sent in clippings from the Los Angeles Evening Express on the 15th of August, 1928, and the Boston Evening American, 1929, both of which describe the author as the first man in 500 years to attempt to give a greater picture of creation. Gianni contended that there was a bridge of ice, land, and water connecting each of the planets at their poles, Earth to Mars to Jupiter, and Earth to Venus to Mercury. Gianni said, one day in the future, we would think nothing of walking or driving or flying from one planet to the next. He came to this idea of an interconnected universe while walking through the New England woods in October 1926, just before he left from the Arctic on the expedition financed by Hearst. He spoke with Edwin E. Solson, director of the Science Service. He talked with journalists, archbishop, and naval officers. He beseeched his namesake, A.P. Gianni, president of the Bank of America, to fund himself on a flight to South America so that he could prove that the earth did not end but extended on and on. It is said that nothing came from his begging, and after being arrested, he wasn't heard of again until he joined the 14 Society. He popped up into public view again in 1947, riding the publicity that surrounded Robert Baird's explorations of the South Pole. These are some of his interpretations of the universe, written in the book Worlds Beyond the Poles. At Brighton in 1927, The terms stars and planets were held to have meaning only for the mathematical universe, which is based on or developed from the hypothesis founded on illusion. And it was asserted that every celestial area is definitely attached, as the human legs and arms are connected with the torso. It was then realized that up at every angle of observation, from the terrestrial and the celestial, hence up is everywhere, and it is always relative to the particular position occupied in the universe whole. Accordingly, the heavens above are everywhere. The concept that the universe is comprised of globular and isolated bodies originated from the curvature that is developed by all lenses, and that lens-developed curvature fosters the deceptive appearance of globular and isolated bodies comprising the universe. The bodies are illusions. The ancient conclusion of Galileo Galilei that luminous celestial areas are isolated from each other and are circling around or eclipsing in space was founded on the inescapable errors of lens functioning. Under the mobile sky gas, which extends throughout the celestial realm, there is undetectable but very functionable land, water, vegetation, and life like that is common to this on Earth. Therefore, the so-called stars and planets of astronomical designation are in reality lens-produced and apparently globular and isolated areas of a continuous and unbroken luminous celestial outer sky surface. It envelopes every land area of the celestial in the same manner that it envelopes the terrestrial land. But terrestrial man, misreading the luminous signals, properly interpreted the signals, he would have long since acquired land areas of the universe about us. There was no misinterpretation of the signals by the seeker of 1926. He journeyed to the celestial beacons on the wings of extrasensory perceptions, limitless necromancy. That magic permitted breaking through the long-established barriers of deduction, hypothesis, and theory. It disdainfully pushed aside the ice barrier of the terrestrial North Pole and South Pole assumed Earth ends. And there beyond the poles, the most fascinating creative secrets were divulged. Throughout the ages, they had been held in high sacred trust for the doubter and true seeker who ventured that way. The secrets then disclosed provided knowledge of land courses into all the land areas of the universe. Dreams that have built civilizations are magnificent obsessions, but they are nonetheless obsessions. And the obsessed cannot hope to escape the ruthless weapons of obsession. The great lens manipulator knew only the mathematical universe, and he presented it as the factual universe. In blindness of rage engendered by the fear of the unknown, he shouted, "Away with you! How dare you tell me there are no celestial spheres and no space between such conditions?" The first observation and photography was achieved by the stratosphere explorer Professor Auguste Piccard in May 1931. It only approximated a view and a photograph of a terrestrial sky area from stratosphere darkness. because Picard had not achieved significant altitude. A completely dark stratosphere background which would properly express outer sky luminosity. Photographed by the U.S. Naval Research Bureau V-2 rocket cameras in October 1946. Such photographs, procured on altitude of 65 miles, showed at an oblique angle a deceptively disc-like isolated sky area over White Sands, New Mexico. And the subsequent Naval Research stratosphere photographs at greater altitudes hold most sensational confirmation of physical continuum. The work was at that time most premature, for there had not been confirmation of its sensational features. Thus, when subsequently afforded press reference, it was described as more daring than anything Jules Verne ever conceived.